my duty and pleasure to welcome you to Chilwell Methodist Church this evening. Before we start, a couple of housekeeping things. In the event of an air raid, you will hear a fire alarm go. Follow the green men, the little green men above the doors, okay? Toilets, should you feel the emotion getting too intense and a need to retreat for a little sob, there are some toilets at the back, at the bottom of the stairs for the Pigeon fanciers, and the rest of us can go through here, okay? Likewise, at the interval, there is an interval. The ladies and gentlemen of the Chilwell Road Catering Corps have set up a number of refreshment stations in the hall, in the barracks behind me. March through either side and you'll be able to get there. When you do, you'll find an opportunity to make donations. The donations tonight, any money raised is going for Help for Heroes and for the two Nottingham homeless charities, Hope Nottingham and the Friary. And so, to this evening. Those of you who were here at the last sensation have a pretty good idea of what to expect, and I know you're going to have a really good time. The rest of you, for whom this might be the first time you've been to one of these events, we may have got you here under false pretenses. I know you've paid for your tickets. Can I just apologise if you think you're here to be entertained? You are the entertainment. Everyone is expected to sing this evening. There's no way out, even if you're tone deaf. Think of it as a sort of conscription. Which brings me to the point where I introduce your drill sergeant. Some say he's been conducting choirs since he was 12 years old, and is Nottingham's answer to Gareth Malone, without the army wives or the beard. All we know is that we're lucky to have him, and he is Chris Bridges.
Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I hope after that introduction we don't disappoint you too much. Well, it's wonderful to see you all here, and as you will have read on your programmes and as you were just told, this evening you're not just the audience, you are the performance, so it's all part of it. As we go through this evening's entertainment and story, there are many times when we're going to need you to take part, either to sing the songs, or to be the people in Nottingham Square waving goodbye to the soldiers, or maybe to be the rabble in the French bar. Who knows, we haven't got there yet. But I think because of that, and because you are part of our cast, we've got a wonderful cast of people to help lead it, but you're part of it too. We ought to do what we do in that kind of thing and have a warm-up. Don't you agree? Which means, in that case, I want you to all just first of all stand up and stretch up into the sky. As high as you can, that's right. Wonderful. Now, just relax for a second. That's really important because later on, Hop the Pigeon goes for a fly and we have to say, and he flew over something. We go, it's up there, okay? So, stretch. And then if you can just fall forward and then touch as close as you can get to your toes as possible. That's obviously because you'll bang your head, not because you can't get down there. So when we say, and he flew under the things, it's down there, okay? But also then, if you can just twist your head from side to side, so a long way round one, and then a long way round the other way, without doing yourself any damage. And then he flies over the sea, you see, and then it's just, well, it's out there somewhere. So you've practiced that bit already, so you've already got 3 really useful moves for later on. Now, we have to get our mouths into action. Lots of singing to do today, so if you can just sort of... and then I thought what might be a good thing is... because there were lots of horses at that time, and obviously we've got to be able to impersonate those when we need to. And if you can click your tongues, let's send these horses on a bit of a trot. Excellent, excellent, okay. And then we've also got some words to use. So ladies, I want a good solid votes for women. Is that any good, chaps? I don't think so. Votes for women, come on. Votes for women. And then, gentlemen, it's up to you. You can either say, oh no, or you can say, whatever. It doesn't really matter, but let's just rehearse it. So, gentlemen, 1, 2, 3. Oh, no. Well, that was good, wasn't it? So we'll do votes for women, and then we'll do oh no. So, ready, go. Votes for women! Whatever. Perfect, okay. And then we're going in the army. So men, you horrible little man. Come on, you're in the army now. 1, 2, 3. You horrible little man. And ladies, we're off to France. So, ooh la la! Excellent, right, so we're all warmed up. Good. So if you'd like to sit down, come with me back to Beeston in 1914. Is there anybody in the audience tonight who is less than 12 years old? Right, you few people, you're the only ones in the whole of this audience who wouldn't have been at work yet. So in 1914, all of you guys in the school choir, you would all have been at work. So that's the kind of era we are in. The Hoover and the washing machine have only just been invented, but none of us have seen them because we're just not rich enough. You might have seen one if you worked at a big house, but otherwise you haven't got a clue they're there yet. There's no radio or gramophone. TV's still 15 years off, and there are very few telephones as well, so you're not likely to have used one of those. But there are 3 million pianos, so whatever, you can entertain yourself. In the local area, there are 100 colonies of bees in and around Beeston, and they're there because we've got so many local orchards and nurseries, and they're keeping the local industry in business there. Cars haven't been around for very long, but they can travel up to 40 miles an hour, and they do 19 miles to the gallon. Aeroplanes have just been invented, and they can travel at 90 miles an hour. And then very pertinent to this area and to our story tonight, in 1913, Hetley Pearson, so Mr. Hetley, has opened the Beeston Lads Club in memory of his father, who had run the Beeston Boiler Company. And that whole legacy still exists today with the Pearson Centre and all of the local activity that takes place around that.
Can we sing that new song for John for his birthday, please?
Of course, children.
Everybody, it's an easy one. Happy birthday to John. Ready, go. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear John. Happy birthday to you. Don't you get your first round of applause for that? Well done, everybody. Excellent. Trouble is, that one will never catch on, will it?
Happy birthday, John. Who would have thought you'd be this tall at 15?
Mother, don't treat me like a child. I left school 3 years ago, and I've been working at the Anglo-Scotia mills ever since. As far as I can tell, I must be an adult. No child would choose to make net curtains every day if they had a choice.
Well, John, see what other opportunities are out there. Barton's buses, rally bikes, John Player, they all need staff.
By the way, Mother, do you think it might be possible if we could invite Daisy Green and her father over for tea after church on Sunday? It must be hard for them since Mrs. Green passed away.
We'll see, young man. It's a fine thought, but I do wonder if you want to invite Daisy and her father for lunch, or just Daisy. I'll see what your father thinks.
Read all about it. Read all about it. Aeroplane loops the loop for the first time at the end of their show.
US vaudeville artist Harry Fox invents a new dance, the foxtrot.
Mrs. Patrick Campbell appears as Eliza Doolittle in the hit new play Pygmalion.
King and Queen visit Nottingham. They visit the hosiery factories. School children have a day off from school, and they go to Woollerton Lodge to wave at them.
Archbishop of Canterbury delivers New Year's message saying, "Clouds are hanging over the peace of our industrial life." And 1914 could be a very fateful year for the history of our land.
Britain and Germany have realised there's nothing to lose by a quarrel, says Lloyd George, Chancellor of the Exchequer.
Back at the start of the last century, a very popular local pastime was for families in Beeston to walk to Attenborough and climb into Barton's Ferry and go over to Barton in Favis, where they go for afternoon tea. And the summer of 1914 was a heat wave. So one Sunday afternoon, Doris, John, Daisy joined hundreds of others for that special treat. Now we're going to help them on their way by singing Row, Row, Row Your Boat. Another nice easy one to get us warmed up. We're going to break into 4 groups. So group 1 is this left-hand side of the church. Group 2, group 3, group 4. Have you got that? Who's group 1? Group 3? Group 2? Yeah, you're in it upstairs as well. You've got it, group 2, group 3 and group 4. So why don't you stand up and we'll start over here and we'll keep going until we get bored. Ready? So we'll start with you. 3, 4. Row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. Row, row, row your boat, row, row, row your boat, row, row, row your boat, row down the stream, 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 last time, down the stream, row down the stream, row down the stream. Oh, look at that, we're a choir. Well done, everybody. Thank you. Are you there yet? Now you know what this sort of trip's like. John and Daisy soon finished their lemonade and were ready to move on. But Doris had found someone to natter with, so the 2 youngsters were able to have a quiet talk just out of earshot.
What a glorious day, John. Here we are, surrounded by beautiful green fields. And just look at those lovely red flowers there. Some people say that poppies are like weeds, but I think they are beautiful. They come and go so quickly, but for a short time, they are truly perfect.
They're all right, I suppose, but they're a bit showy. I'd rather have something that has a good, honest scent. Something you know is there even if you have your eyes closed. Oh, Daisy, I think I'm in love with you. What a choice. Poppy, honeysuckle, or even a daisy.
I know, John. I never want us to be parted, but we never get more than a few seconds undisturbed. So guess what I have done? Look, I knitted these for you. So you can wear them and always think of me.
They're beautiful. Well, they're too good to wear. I'm going to keep them safe forever.
Read all about him.
Industrial unrest continues. Nearly 1,000 strikes up to the end of July.
High Wycombe, chairwalkers walk out.
Home rule demanded for Ireland.
And in school children in Burston, Norfolk, strike for 4 months because their teachers have been dismissed.
Good day, Miss Perkins. How can I help you today, then?
Just a copy of the Nottingham Express, please, Mr. Green.
All right, OK. Well, there we're up. Here, have you seen the stories coming out about these suffragettes who are imprisoned? They've been using horsewhips on the Deputy Governor of Holloway Prison. Look. And they blew up that mail train on the way to Blackpool. Can't imagine what possesses them. It's unnatural for women to work in a responsible job, isn't it? And listen to this from the Guardian, the Nottingham Guardian that you want. I ain't got you yet. The Nottingham Guardian. It's in here somewhere. Did they have colour papers? No. I've been told off for having colour pens. They didn't have colour pens. Attention to detail knows no bounds. Anyway, it's yeah, I've done that bit. And listen to this from the Nottingham Guardian. That woman who tried to kill the king with a bomb in the lace market. You know what she said? This will go on until women get the vote. They should be shot, a lot of them.
Mr. Green, how can you say that? We women are as intelligent as men and we work as hard as men. Why shouldn't we have the vote and play a larger part in society?
Listen to you. You're not strong enough to do real work.
What, like selling newspapers?
Yes. Well, I used to have a real man's job. Yeah, before my lumbago got the best of me.
Oh, yes, I remember. A high-class, proper man's job. Let me think now.
Flatulence as well, sorry. Oh, I don't know. We've never had it so good. We've got an empire that spans the world and brings us good from across the globe. Since my Alice passed away, and my Daisy got a steady job up the Pearson House in Bramcote, I'm as tent as can be, Mrs. Perkins. And the newspapers here that I sell are my window on the world.
It really is a very hot day, Mr. Green. I'd love to try one of those ice creams in a cone that you hear about. They sound very refreshing.
I bet you would. But I suppose you'll just have to imagine having one, Mrs. Perkins. Back door of the shop's open, mind. But it doesn't seem to make things any cooler, does it? It does mean that I can hear Mr. Batchelor next door playing the piano, though. Listen. It's a new tune. Might not have heard of it yet. He told me it was called the Tiger Rag. Selling by the thousand, according to the paper.
I like these new ragtime tunes.
So
jolly.
So do I, yeah. Well, I sell the local rag, you see, so it feels like my kind of music. Yeah, enough of that. Did I tell you that one of my pigeons has broken a leg? Well, Daisy wants to nurse it back to health and keep it. So I've had an idea about this here pigeon. I wondered if your John might like to see if he can practice training it up to home. You know, it's a good hobby for a lad, is pigeon racing.
Oh, I don't know. You know what young men are like. But do you mind if he takes the little ones to have a look?
Oh, not at all, Miss Perkins, not at all. Daisy! Daisy! Come on, go. Now then, would you like to show John Vernelsi your new pet?
Yes, please.
Good.
Here he is. That bird's for me. We'll always know he's ours.
Why?
Well, because he moves around like this. Can I have him, please?
Oh no. I heard Mr. Green say I can teach him to home. That needs a responsible adult like me. He's very placid. Hardly moves at all. What should I call him? Any ideas? Wait a minute. I know.
On the
Read all about it, read all about it. June the 28th, Archduke Ferdinand is shot in Sarajevo, Serbia.
July 28th, Austria-Hungary declares war on Serbia.
August the 1st, France mobilises its army. Germany declares war on Russia.
August 3rd, Germany declares war on France. Great Britain gives the order for troops to mobilise.
August the 4th, Germany declares war on Belgium. Great Britain gives Hungary an ultimatum to stand down.
A state of war is declared at 11 p.m.
The Foreign Secretary says, if we engage in war, we shall suffer, but little more than if we stand aside.
H.G. Wells writes in the Daily News, I hope this will be the war to end all wars.
It's a bad do. It's just been announced. We've declared war on Germany. Still let it come in. Invading little Belgium like that, it's just unfair. Our nation needs to teach them a lesson, it does.
After the war was declared, patriotic fervour was at a great height, and thousands of young men volunteered to fight in the war.
Who's for the game? The biggest is played. The red crashing game of a fight. Who'll grip and tackle the job unafraid, and who thinks he'd rather sit tight? Who'll toe the line for the signal to go? Who'll give his country a hand? Who wants to turn to himself in the show? And who wants a seat in the stand? Who knows it won't be a picnic, not much, yet eagerly shoulders a gun? Who would much rather come back with a crutch than lie low and be out of the fun? Come along, lads, we'll come on all right. There's only one course to pursue. Your country is up to her neck in a fight, and she's looking and calling for you.
Nottingham was no different to any other village, town or city in the land. Despite some protestations from peace campaigners, the overriding view was that the war was a just and good thing. Come with me now to the Old Market Square in Nottingham. We're going to be part of the crowd, along with the people up on the stage there, waving goodbye to the Robin Hoods who are lining up in the Market Square to march to the railway station on their way to the front. So come on everybody, let's stand up. If you've got your hat, you need to wave your hat. Oh, I can see some caps. Yes, we're going to wave at the soldiers. And let's march.
It's a long way to Tipperary. It's a long way to go. It's a long way to Tipperary, to the sweetest girl I know. Goodbye, Piccadilly. Farewell, Leicester Square. It's a long, long way to Tipperary, but my heart's right there.
Don't they look amazing? I wish I was able to go with them.
Don't be ridiculous, John. You're only 15, that's too young. And why anyone would want to risk being killed when they didn't have to.
Don't understand. My job at the lace factory is just so boring. I need some adventure in my life. I've applied for a job at the Raleigh Cycle Works. At least bike making sounds a little bit more interesting.
You want to be careful giving up a good position like yours, John. What if you go to Raleigh and you don't like it?
Oh, Mother, I don't know. I just want to be going off to France with the lads. There are whole battalions of pals going off to fight together, you know. It's an honourable and manly thing to do. And they get a shilling a day.
Well, look, the soldiers are starting to march off. Let's join in with the crowd as they sing goodbye.
It's
You can sit down now.
Wonderful. So let's head back to Beeston on the omnibus. I think you've got something to do for me here, John.
One moment, please. Come here, Hop. Now, you see, here's Hop, and I'm training him to hoe. I wonder if he'll get back to Beeston. Come on, Hop. Off you go.
The pigeon watches growing, in growing of the pigeon. He's watching, who's leaving us.
Psst. Daisy, I've got something to tell you. Got the letter today. Got that job at the Rally Works. That means I've got money now. I've got prospects.
Daisy, Daisy, give me your answer too. I'm most crazy for the love of you. It would be a stylish marriage. I can't afford a carriage, but you look sweet upon the seat of a bicycle made for two. Daisy, Daisy, give me your answer too. I'm all crazy for the love of you. It won't be a stylish marriage. I can't afford a carriage, but you look sweet upon the seat of a bicycle made for two.
Oh, I'm so happy. But I can't marry you. We are too young. But if you can wait, I'll marry you when we're old enough. I've got to get to work now. I'll see you soon.
Well, I suppose she's right. I am too young to settle down. Would be the end of my chance for adventure. I love Daisy, and not just because she does a great knit and purl, but I am only 15, and there is a world out there to be explored.
Read all about it.
August the 11th, Lord Kitchener says your country needs you. 100,000 men are required to enlist.
PALS battalions, groups of men from the same firm or club are formed. These include the Glasgow Tramways, the All Tradesmen, and the Football Battalion.
In Nottingham, the Sherwood Foresters Bantam Battalion is formed. For men less than 5'3" tall.
Every member of Beeston Lads Club and football team joined up the first month after war was declared. There were over 200 members of the Lads Club and 126 joined the army.
Let's get this trench ready. We need a young man for this, Andy. Aye, a young man. Sandbags. Sandbags, well. Very heavy. You can tell. Oh. This is a bit lighter. We need a young man to help us with this.
Where's these new privates? Where are they?
There must be one around somewhere. Oh, that's a bit big. Right, are you ready? 1, 2, 3. Ah. Easy does it, easy does it. Easy does it.
How many more of these have we got?
Hang on, hang on. ready.
Okay.
Get that. Let's see it again.
Your bag.
1, 2, 3. Oh, it's that new man, Private Perkins.
Going for duty, sir?
Sandbags.
Wow. Come on, John, hurry up, lad. You're in the King's Army now.
Okay.
He's a good lad.
It's not been hard work this time.
Get cracking. Nearly there.
I'll tell you, just take your time. Take your time. You've got to get all this drill right, you know.
Yes, sir.
Take up the fronts now. You're a big lad, aren't you? You're a big lad.
Yes, sir.
But I don't think that chin's seen very much razor, has it? How old are you?
18, of course.
18, of course.
Aye. Where do you come from?
Beeston in Nottingham, sir.
Ah, Beeston. Not many lads from Beeston in this regiment. I guess you'll be looking to make new friends.
Not really, sir. I have a pet pigeon, you see. He's very tame and hardly moves at all.
He's got a pet pigeon. Ah. Well, and I was me thinking you'd run away to war to get away from a girl.
No, I'm not running away. I really love her and she loves me. Just wanted to have some adventure in my life before I settle down.
Know about you then?
Pack up your trusses.
Pack up your troubles in your old kit bag and smile, smile, smile. While the good circles will light your back, smile, boys, as the sky. What's the use of worrying? It never was worthwhile. So pack up your troubles in your old kit bag and smile, smile, smile. Pack up your troubles in your old kit bag and smile, smile, smile. While the good circles will light your back, smile, boys, as the sky. What's the use of worrying? It never was worthwhile. So pack up your troubles in your old kit bag and smile, smile, smile.
Read all about it. Read all about it. 250,000 boy soldiers join up in the first few weeks. Many with false names so that the parents couldn't trace them.
September the 6th, the first Battle of the Marne takes place. 13,000 British casualties and 250,000 German casualties.
Over 750,000 men from the country have already enlisted.
600 of them came from Beeston, out of our total population of about 11,300.
Prices are already rising steeply. A £4 loaf of bread now costs 8 pence.
Meanwhile, back in the Beeston newsagents,
Good day, Mr. Perkins. Here, look here, look here, look here. You seen this in the London Times? 75,000 of our boys have volunteered already. Yeah, wish I could be with him, giving the Kaiser a bloody nose.
Oh, Mr. Green.
If only I could be one of them. Yeah, out there fighting for king and country.
Mr. Green, he's gone.
Who's gone?
John, he's gone and signed up. I got a letter this morning. He's only 15 years old.
My dear Mrs. Perkins, what can I say? He's a young man with a sense of adventure and an excellent spirit. It'll be the making of him, it will. You must be right proud.
I don't know how you can say such a thing to a mother about her son. He's only a boy.
Mrs. Perkins. He'll be home for Christmas, mark my words. Here, come and have a cup of tea. Always makes things better, doesn't it?
When I joined up, I thought that fighting in the war would be one great adventure. But it's not like that at all. Hard to remember what life like was back at home sometimes. But I do remember thinking it was boring. Boring is good, let me tell you. And I'm so lonely. No mother, no Elsa, no Vera, and especially no Daisy. But at least I've got Hop to keep me company. We don't fight all the time. Sometimes we fall back behind the front line and have training exercises. And there are so many of us. An amazing mix of men, from the posh officers through to some very interesting types. See that bloke over there? They call him Sandbag, because he could replace Win with a sandbag and not notice. But it's worse when we're in the trenches. They are knee-deep in mud, and I just can't sleep, except when I'm so exhausted that I don't have a choice. But the lice just make me itch. Spend a lot of our time chatting, which is getting rid of the lice from the seams of our uniforms. And everywhere a man looks, there are rats. I spend all of my life hungry, and those guys seem to be full to bursting. Still, that makes playing Splat the Rat a lot easier. What I couldn't give for some of Mother's treacle pudding.
Trenches of the Western Front stretch 400 miles from the North Sea coast, all the way south to Switzerland.
Animals play a very important part in the war. 1 million horses and mules are used to pull artillery, and the cavalry played a part throughout the whole of the war. The UK lost 250,000.
Dogs used to carry supplies to the wounded in no man's land.
100,000 pigeons carry messages over the trenches.
Within weeks of the start of the war, the rooms at the back of this church were requisitioned by the War Office. And unlike later conflicts, the war effort was largely funded by public subscriptions. Here in Beeston, the local community have decided to hold a concert party to raise funds for the boys at the front. I think we should go and join in. Our master of ceremonies for this evening is none other than Arthur Trenchcoat, played by our very own Arthur Perkins. Good evening, Arthur. It's great to see you supporting this very important cause.
Thank you. It's only me, though. The rest of the family are busy.
Are your relatives in business?
Oh, yes. In the iron and steel business.
Oh, indeed.
Yes. My mother irons and my father steels.
And how are your pigeons? I know that they're like family to you.
Oh, yes. They're doing very well, thank you. But I'm into other animals now, you know. Yeah. Here, I've got a poser for you. If I had a rabbit in a hutch and I bought another rabbit, how many rabbits would I have?
Why, 2, of course.
Nah, 10.
You don't know your arithmetic.
You don't know my rabbits.
Shall we move on?
Right then. Ladies and gentlemen, pray silence, please, for the choir with the comedic name of Harlequin, who will regale us now with a tale of love, woe, and full bellies. The Goslings.
She was a pretty little gosling, and a gay young gosling he. And I love you, he said, so dearly. And I love you, said she. But alas, he was Then up he went to the farmhouse. Where is my love, he said, but the farmer's wife, she seized a knife and cut off his little head. And she sat him up with his true love on a dish so deep and wide. So though he died, they were parted. In death they were side by side.
Well, thank you very much. Right, Gran. Here, hey, remember I was talking about animals before that beautiful song? Well, I've got another question for you now, Ab. What's the difference between a stoat and a weasel?
I don't know. What is the difference between a stoat and a weasel?
A weasel is weaselly distinguished.
And what about a stoat?
Well, that's totally different, that is.
Very funny, very funny. Can you introduce the next term for us, please?
Of course I can. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Miss Serena Lindsay, who tonight, for our delight and delectation, will sing a patriotic song in the style of the renowned Dame Gally Melba!
Land of hope and glory, Mother of the free, how shall we extol thee, who are born of thee? Wider still and wider shall thy bounds be set. God who made thee mighty, make thee mighty yet. God who made thee mighty, make thee mighty yet.
Dame Gally Melba! And your singing really was something to write home about. Thank you very much.
Read all about it, read all about it. 19,000 mailbags cross the channel every day.
12 million letters are sent every week.
Army Post Office staff increases from 250 to 4,000 in 3 years.
By the end of the war, 114 million parcels and 1 billion letters had been sent.
Dear John, we all hope that you're doing well. The girls are growing fast and Daisy asks after you every day. Here is a food parcel to provide you with some comforts at this festive time of year. Happy Christmas, Mother and Father. Can't believe it's Christmas in a few days. I think I'll write a quick letter home to thank them for my parcel. But it won't get me till after Christmas now. My fingers are so cold I could hardly write. Go on, Hop. You go and let everyone know that we're okay.
So you've got to remember your warm-up now. Hop was less of a homing pigeon and rather more of a roaming pigeon. Hop flew over the trenches of the front line. They're down there. He's over the trenches, sorry, down there. He flew under the biplanes of the flying aces. They're up there. We'll get the hang of it later. And he flew through the fog over the sea, above the powerful dreadnought battleships. They're out there somewhere. Hop was a nice pigeon, but he wasn't a bright pigeon, and he got a bit lost. And the wool that John had so carefully tied to his leg caught on a sharp piece of metal and it came off. So when Hop got bored with pecking at stale croissants, he flew back to John.
Read all about it.
Score numbers drop as children leave to fill the gaps left by the men.
National leagues for football and cricket are suspended. Trent Bridge is now used as a hospital for the war wounded.
Belgium refugees appear in Nottingham, looked after in the Albert Hall mission.
Raleigh, Boots and Players all convert some of their factory to make munitions.
Mum, I just saw Hop.
Really, Vera? Where?
In the park. I was down there with Elsie. She was chasing me. And then I saw him. By the pond. Hop the pigeon, hop the pigeon.
Are you sure it was Hop?
Yeah, it only had one leg. Just like Hop.
Well, if it is Hop, I expect he'll come back to the pigeon loft. We'll have to keep a lookout for him.
I tried to bring him with me. When I got close, he hopped away, quacked at me, and flew off.
Oh, Vera, it wasn't Hop, was it? It was a duck. Here, darling. I think you miss John more than I do. Maybe your big brother will still be home for Christmas. You never know.
I don't miss John. I miss Hop.
As the weeks had gone by and it became clearer and clearer the war wouldn't be over by Christmas, voices against it grew louder. Conscientious objectors and pacifists were motivated by a variety of reasons. Some felt that the government of Germany was not their enemy. Others, like the Quakers and the Jehovah's Witnesses, objected on religious grounds. Some conscientious objectors didn't want to fight, but were keen to do their bit. These people were willing to help in weapons factories or in the trenches carrying stretchers, though not to fight. Absolutionists refused to do anything involving the war. Suffragists from across Europe linked with their sisters in the United States to protest about the bloodshed. One of the British suffragists wrote an open Christmas letter, which was published in the US under the heading "On Earth Peace, Goodwill Towards Men." It offered a Christmas greeting to the women in Germany and Austria.
A Christmas message sounds like mockery to a world at war. But those of us who wished and still wish for peace may surely offer a solemn greeting to such of you who feel as we do. Is it not our mission to preserve life? Do not humanity and common sense alike prompt us to join hands with the women of neutral countries and urge our rulers to prevent further bloodshed? Even through the clash of arms, we treasure our poet's vision and already seem to hear 100 nations swear that there shall be pity and peace and love among the good and free. May Christmas hasten that day.
You missed something amazing this morning. There's been a truce called for Christmas. It's peaceful at last. We even played football in no man's land, and we sang carols. Us in English, and they sang in German. It's odd, you know. They are the enemy, but when you actually meet them, they're just like us. Now there's a sound I love to hear. That was mess, and it means my Christmas dinner is ready. Corned beef, I expect, has been every other mealtime this month. Or maybe even McConchy stew. A delicious mix of corned beef, waxy potatoes, beans, carrots, and onions, according to Delia Smith. Whatever it is, I bet they won't be eating it in Beeston. I want to have some proper meat.
You can have a clap after that. And that, ladies and gentlemen, brings us to our interval. There's teas and coffees and drinks if you go down that way or that way. When you get in there, there are some stands from the charities. There are also some stands from the local history societies for you to have a look at and find out some information. There's another one over here from the Beeston History Society as well. So go and educate yourself. Go and refresh yourself ready for the second half, which will be in about 4 years' time, just so you know what's going on. It's only 15 minutes in the real world. Thank you. Well, welcome back, everybody. I hope you're all suitably refreshed, had something to drink, and are ready for another good sing. As you will have noticed, we've had a very long interval, about 4 years in fact, and I hope that you've had a chance to see the screen there, which has told you what's happened in the intervening years, 1916, 15 and 17. So let's find out about some of the things that have happened in the meantime.
Read all about it. 1915, the British government asked women to sign up for war work.
Due to lack of fuel, Barton's introduced the gas-powered bus. It was filled at a gasometer on Castle Boulevard and had a giant bag on its roof.
1916, Zeppelins dropped bombs on Nottingham. 3 killed.
1916, 2.6 million men had volunteered to fight, but this was only half the army that Lord Kitchener wanted. Conscription started.
1917, 22 German officers escaped from Sutton Bonington prisoner of war camp.
1917, rice is forbidden to be thrown at weddings or to feed the birds. Food is just too precious.
1917, Victoria Embankment turned into allotments.
1918, Britons are told to have 2 meatless days a week and no meat for breakfast.
One element of the local story we can't forget is the munitions factory at Chilwell. Here are some facts. In March 1915, British shells were found to be of poor quality and a shell crisis was declared. Lord Chetwynd donated some land near to Chilwell. The building works started very quickly afterwards, and this is going to sound familiar. There were major hold-ups and major roadworks all along Chilwell Road due to all the building works. So what goes around comes around. The first shell was filled on the 8th of January 1916, and the total number of shells filled was 19 million. And that's half of all the shells that were actually produced in the UK over the course of the war. At its peak, the works employed 10,000 people, and many of those were women. They were called the munitionettes, or the canary girls, because of the chemicals in the bombs which made their skins go yellow. They worked a mix of 12 and 18-hour shifts. And I read, when I was looking this up, they said we'd never do that today, but during the war, that's exactly what you had to do. And they did everything, the women did everything that a man would do. For instance, one canary girl remembered how she would climb up a ladder to drive the enormous cranes that were necessary to move the 12-inch shells. And they were so big that they came up to your waist. And then at the end of her shift, she would shin down a rope to get back down to the ground again, which I think was pretty horrific in those days. It just wasn't what ladies did.
Good day, Miss Green. How are you today, then? Can I help you?
Just a copy of the Nottingham Express, please, Mr. Green.
Is that the one I should have given you last time or the time before? How was work, then?
Hard as ever, Mr. Green. I always said I wanted to do a man's job, and now I've got it. Since the war, so many of us are filling the gaps left by men, driving, working on the farms, and like me, in the munitions factory. I can never condone this dreadful war, especially since my dear husband was killed. But at least doing my job, making shells, I feel as if I'm doing something to bring it to an end as soon as possible. And if that means I see John even a day earlier, all the effort will have been worth it. And of course, it's better paid than the domestic work like Daisy up at the Pearson house in Bramcote.
Aye. Here. You fancy a cup of tea? It always makes things feel better, doesn't it?
It wasn't just men from England, Scotland and Northern Ireland and Wales that fought in the war. The country needed men to fight, and it called on troops from across the empire. Over the course of the war, 1 million troops from India, 415,000 Australians, 425,000 Canadians, and by 1918, more than 1 million Americans were in France.
All I've had to eat since I saw you last is plum jam and stale bread. I even dream of a cup of tea that doesn't taste of lime. There's the remains of a village about a mile or so from here. I'm going in to see if there's anything I can find for us to eat. There might even be a bar. Great, there is a bar. And there's a nice-looking young lady over there. I think I will get a drink.
Things got a bit lively. There were representatives of all the Allied countries present, and the conversation soon moved to whose girls were the most beautiful. First up were the Australians, who were determined that their dear Matilda was the finest of them all.
I think we should recreate that moment. Maestro, the introduction to Waltzing Matilda, please.
Waltzing Matilda.
Speak like this. You need to go up at the ends of words a little bit if you're going to be Australian. Let's try it again.
Waltzing Matilda, waltzing Matilda, will come waltzing Matilda with me. And he sang as he walked and waited till his really walked. Will come waltzing Matilda with me. Waltzing Matilda, will come waltzing Matilda with me. And he sang as he walked and waited till his really walked. Will come waltzing Matilda with me.
But then, another voice broke in arguing that no, the American belles were the most beautiful in the world.
Well, I don't think you need any help with an American accent, but just in case I can give you a clue or two, we don't say Waltzing Matilda, we say Waltzing Matilda. Okay, got that? Okay, off we go.
Excavating for a mine, well to miner 49er, and it's autumn and it's mine. Oh my darling, oh my darling, oh my darling Clementine, our lost and gone forever, and sorry Clementine.
But they couldn't agree, and very soon an argument broke out, with this side singing Waltzing Matilda, and this side singing the other one. It's very tough, you've got to make it up as you go along. So let's try it with the band. So you're Waltzing Matilda, and you're in a cabin, 3, 4.
In a cabin, excavating for a mine, well to mine.
Stop. We allies cannot get along. How will we ever win the war? Why don't you men realize that just because we don't sound good together does not mean we can live in harmony? Let's go. Let's go, you two boys. Show us how it's done.
We will. For you. What are we going to do? Let's do... Let's do... No, long way to take a ride. Pack up your troubles. Pack up your troubles. We'll see. And this side, we're doing long way to take an area. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. It's a long way to troubles in the road. Hit bag and smile, smile, smile. It's a long
after all.
Although we heard earlier in the evening that horses, dogs and pigeons were used throughout the war, there were many attempts to develop bigger and better weapons. These ranged from the gigantic to the almost invisible. In 1916, the land ship was introduced. The Tommies called them the slug, or the whale, or the toad. We called them tanks. And they weren't really used for fighting at first. Instead, the advancing soldiers hid behind them as they moved forward. There was even a German gun called Big Bertha that could fire a 2,000-pound shell 9.3 miles. Two weapons caused untold misery. They were the machine gun and gas. Machine guns could fire 600 rounds a minute, causing terrible casualties to the enemy. But even worse was poison gas, which could very easily attack the side that released it if the wind was blowing in the wrong direction. And when the British first used it in September 1915, it caused 2,600 deaths in their own side. Aeroplanes, more specifically biplanes, were also used at this time. Nottingham has a particular claim in fame in the person of Captain Albert Ball, who was a British air ace. Albert Ball, whose father was the Lord Mayor of Nottingham, had a total of 44 victories, including some over the famous Red Baron, Baron von Richthofen, and he was given freedom of the city in February 1917. He was killed over France in May 1917, and on June the 8th, he was awarded the Victoria Cross posthumously. The Red Baron was finally shot down by the newly formed RAF 3 weeks after they started in April 1918. Now we're going to move back to Beeston. In 1914, there wasn't any radio yet, so newspapers and letters from the front were the main sources of information. But there were also the new picture houses, which showed newsreel films. There were 3 cinemas in Beeston, including the Palace on the High Road and the Palladium, which opened in 1914 and was on the site of where Iceland is today. And we're going to join the locals now in one of those and watch a few minutes of a very famous film that was seen by millions across the country. They reckon about half the population of the UK saw it, and it was called The Somme.
About the Somme last night. I knew things were bad at the front, but I wish I hadn't gone to see how bad.
You've got to keep your spirits up, Daisy. Don't let things get you down. By the way, I saw you afterwards, on my way back from the munitions factory. Your dad looked really different in the shadows of the gas lamp. He's lost some weight. Or was it your new fancy man?
Another young man.
Not your dad, eh?
I'm not sure if I'll ever see John again, you see. We've not received a letter in ages. Vera keeps fantasizing about Pop coming to see us. So many of my friends' sweethearts and fathers have been killed. Your husband, John's father. I just don't know if I can sit and wait to hear the worst.
But Daisy, my love, you still love John, don't you, deep down?
Yes, that's the problem. I love him too much to lose him.
then you and I need to stay strong and true and loyal. When he comes home, we both need to be there to greet him.
Thank you so much, that was wonderful. The war had continued to affect Beeston profoundly. Captain Hetley of the Beeston Lads Club had been killed in 1917. He was the 29th member of the club to make the ultimate sacrifice. At that time, there were still 157 of them fighting and 3 in hospital. The Germans had been quite successful at using submarines, or U-boats, to disrupt food supplies and starve the British into submission. This resulted in the first food rationing, and at the local schools, girls were given special lessons on how to cook economy meals. And it was at this time that another famous slogan was used for the first time: dig for victory.
Another day of hell begins. I can't even remember what life was like back before I came to the front. I'd better get my breakfast. After that, I'll get my tot of rum. We're going over the top at 7:30. Hello, Hop. Got a terrible feeling about today. You go and let everyone know that we are okay. I'll miss you, but not as much as I miss Daisy.
Hop was less of a homing pigeon and rather more of a roaming pigeon. Hop flew over the trenches of the front line. They're down there! He flew under the biplanes of the flying aces. They're up there! And he flew through the fog over the sea, above the powerful dreadnought battleships. They're out there somewhere. Hop was a nice pigeon, but he wasn't a bright pigeon, and he got a bit lost. He got the wool that John had so carefully tied onto his leg caught, and it came off. So when Hop got bored with pecking its stale sandwich, he flew back to John. The 1st of July 1918 was an extremely hot day, and Doris, who was now quite yellow from working with the chemicals at the munitions works, was glad when her 10-hour shift was over and she could go home to see her 2 young daughters, Elsie and Vera. But first she needed to collect some supplies that Mr. Green had collected from her from the general store.
Good evening, Mrs. Perkins. What a hot day. I'll be so glad when it starts to cool down. Have you come for your supplies? Father said you'd be in.
Yes, please, Daisy. I need to screw the handle back on my best broom.
Mum, Daisy, I've just seen Hop.
Oh, yes, Vera. Where?
By the canal. I was down there with Elsie, watching the boys playing in the rafts. I saw him, right in front of me.
Are you sure it was Hop?
Yes, it wasn't a duck.
But was it a pigeon?
Hop the pigeon. I think so.
How many legs did it have?
I don't know. It was hard to see.
Well, if it is Hop, I expect he'll come back to the pigeon loft. We'll have to keep a lookout.
I tried to bring him with me, but when I got close, all of his friends hovered around me, got in the way, then they squawked a lot and flew off.
Oh, Vera, it wasn't Hop, was it? It was a seagull. Come here. I think you miss John even more than I do. But at least you remind us to keep hoping, whatever the world throws at us.
At 7:10 on July the 1st, 1918, 8 tons of explosives at the Chilwell Munitions Factory detonated. The explosion was seen and heard for 15 miles around. 139 people were killed and 250 were injured. An appeal was sent out for people to go and help, and horses and carts and even pedal bikes were used to move the wounded to hospital. People remembered the traffic jams along the length of Chilwell Road in front of this church until gone midnight, and those same traffic jams spread into Long Eaton and upwards towards Bramcote. The wounded, some tied to the back of lorries, were taken to the local hospitals at Trent College in Long Eaton and to the Voluntary Aid Detachment Hospital at the Cedars, where Cedar Road is now, as well as into the General Hospital in Nottingham. Despite everything, the remaining workers went to the factory at 6 o'clock the next morning to report for work, but the rescuers were still searching for survivors, and so they were sent home and told to come back the next day.
This is hell. I went forward on the charge like they told me, and I've been hit. I'm bleeding cold and tired. John Perkins, lost in no man's land. And here's Andy too. It's not even moving. I'm not at all sure that they're going to find us. I'm such an idiot to run away from Daisy. I could have stayed working at Raleigh and made bikes. Can't believe in all this carnage, though, that there are still things growing. Not honeysuckle, but poppies. Just like Daisy and I saw in Barton and Famous all those years ago.
In Flanders fields the poppies blow, between the crosses, row upon row, that mark our place, and in the sky the larks, still bravely singing, fly, scarce heard amid the guns below. We are the dead, short days ago we lived, felt dawn, saw sunset glow, loved and were loved, and now we lie in Flanders fields. Take up our quarrel with the foe, to you from failing hands we throw the torch, be yours to hold it high. If ye break faith with us who die, we shall not sleep, though poppies grow in Flanders fields.
What's that? We can't be far from our mates. If I can hear the bugle playing. They play the last post so that we know where to head if we get stranded out here in no man's land. What's this coming towards me? It looks like Hop. Hop, you haven't been to Beeston, have you? Well, even if you have, you need to go back there now. I'll tie this last bit of red wool from my sock to your leg and set you off. Maybe you'll get back to Daisy to let her know I'm okay. I hope you'll be able to fly with all the mud on you. You look black. Hopefully it will act as camouflage for you. Go and let everyone know that we're okay. I'll miss you, but not as much as I miss Daisy.
It was a nice pigeon, and although he wasn't a bright pigeon, he sometimes got lucky.
Here, look, that's John Perkins' bird. He must be still alive. Come on.
Sometimes Hop got really lucky. And as he looked down from his high perch, he could see the pigeon loft where he had grown up, and he flew down to say hello.
Now, where was that bugle coming from? That's the way we need to crawl. Come on, Andy.
The explosion at the munitions factory was the largest in the country, and it profoundly affected our local community.
Never of us be said we had no war to wage, because our womanhood, because the weight of age held us in servitude. None sees us fight, yet we in the long night battle to give release to all whom we must send to seek and die for peace. When they have gone, we in the twilit place meet terror face to face and strive with him that we may save our fortitude alive. Theirs be the hard, but ours the lonely bed. Naught were we spared, of us this word shall not be said.
Despite the tragedy, work on rebuilding the munitions factory began the next day, and full production was achieved just a month later. The people of Beeston battled on, always hoping that the war would end soon, just as the soldiers at the front continued to take refuge in their humour. And now we're going to join them in singing a song of hope. For the first verse of this, we need the ladies and the children, please, to be the congregation here in Beeston on a Sunday morning. There aren't any men left, they're all fighting, so just the youngsters. And then in the second verse, men, you're going to be on the front singing in your church parade. And then for the third verse, we just sit quietly and listen to Harlequin sing that to us.
Mrs. Perkins, here, look at this newspaper. That terrible disaster, actual disaster. The only thing it says here about it is 60 feared dead in Midlands factory explosion. That's all it says. If they can hide something as monumental as the carnage and heartache of the other week, what else have they been hiding from us these past 4 years? What we've read has been bad enough. What other horrors have our boys been having to endure?
Oh, Mr. Green, let me make you a cup of tea. Everything always seems better after a nice cuppa.
Oh, don't mock me, Mrs. Perkins. I've believed the newspapers these past 40 years, and now I'm all at 6s and 7s.
Mum, I've just seen Hop.
Again, Vera. Where was this then?
Out the back. I was feeding the pigeons, and I saw Hop just sitting on a perch.
Are you sure it was Hop? What colour was it?
Grey.
And how many legs did it have?
Only one. Just like Hop.
Mum, I think it really was Hop. Look, this was tied to his leg.
That looks like the wool that Daisy used to knit those socks she gave to John just before he ran away. Girls, I really think this is Hop. John is all right. Quick, run and tell Daisy, she has to know.
We need to celebrate. Hop really has come home, so John must be safe and alive. I know he isn't home yet, but we can always have 2 parties. One now, and one when he gets back here.
Eventually, the war did end.
Read all about it.
August the 8th, 1918, 4 years and 4 days after Britain entered the war, German General Ludendorff calls it the Black Day of the German Army as they are driven back.
October 1918, the German Navy are ordered to destroy the British fleet or be destroyed themselves. The sailors refused and pour water on the ship's boilers.
November the 9th, 1918, Kaiser Wilhelm is thrown out of Germany.
November 11th, 1918, the armistice, the peace treaty, is signed on the 11th hour of this, the 11th day of the 11th month.
Locally, it was suggested by the MP that because of the heroic actions of several people over the course of the years, the munitions factory in Chilwell should be awarded the Victoria Cross. Although this didn't happen, every employee did get a medal with the words VC Factory engraved on it, and it's been known as the VC Factory ever since. And the Nottingham Evening Post reported the nightmare horror of the past 4 years has at last dissolved into glorious victory. The greater part of the city is ablaze with bunting. But after the euphoria of the victory had passed, the reality of the cost of the war remained. 65 million men had fought. 8 million fighting men were killed. 2 million of them died of illness. 21 million of them were injured, and 6.6 million civilians died. And finally, a pigeon called Cher-Ami flew 25 miles in 25 minutes, despite being shot, to deliver a message that saved 200 American soldiers.
Mum, look at this.
What have you got there?
It's Hop.
Yes.
That's rubbish, Vera.
Don't be nasty, Elsie, especially on a day like today.
No, but it is. Look, Vera can't even spell hop.
Yes, she can. Vera's a very clever girl. Vera's got it exactly right. She's called the Pigeon Hope, and that's exactly what he was. All through the terrible years of the war, our hope was kept alive by Vera's sightings of Hop. And a few weeks ago, when we hadn't heard from your brother John for months, Hop the Pigeon really did come back. And by doing that, he really did deliver us hope. Hope that we still have, that John will come back home soon.
What a wonderful day.
Greetings, Mrs. Perkins and girls. Isn't it wonderful?
This is so nearly perfect. All we need now is John back safe and sound.
So after 4.5 long years, the young sweethearts were reunited.
Daisy Green, you've just made me the happiest man on this planet. I'm so happy I could burst.
John Perkins, I could float away with joy.
Everybody out. I'm forever blowing bubbles, breathing up in the air. They make my sunshine, they reach the sky. They're like my dreams, they fade and die. Music always hiding, I float everywhere. I'm forever blowing bubbles, pretty bubbles in the air. I'm forever blowing bubbles, pretty bubbles in the air. They flash so bright, they reach the sky. Then like my dreams, they fade and die. Fortune's always hiding, I float everywhere. I'm forever blowing bubbles, pretty bubbles in the air.
I've been given a piece of paper from Chris to say who to say thank you to. I noticed that his name isn't on there, but we'll come to that in a minute. Before we go anywhere, I want to speak on behalf of the cast and everyone who's been involved here to thank you, because I joked at the beginning about you being the audience, you being the choir, you being the performers, and you were. And this place, when it's full of people singing like this, is spectacular, and it's just fantastic to be here, and it has been fantastic to be here. So on their behalf, thank you. Give yourselves a big round of applause. You deserve it. If you want to sing more, I've been passed a note saying that and you enjoy singing hymns particularly, do come along to St Mary's Church in Attenborough, 6:30 tomorrow evening, when they'll be singing the great hymns of Charles Wesley, and hearing about his brother John's efforts to renew the Church of England. So that should be a good sing-song too. And now, some thank yous to the cast, who have been spectacular as ever, and it's amazing. Thank you ever so much. Can we just have a big round of applause for the actors? For our musicians. Can we say thank you too to the choirs, the Harlequin Choir and the White Hills Park Federation Community Choir. And to everyone else who's organised this evening. Can I just say that I understand we've raised from this evening £550, which is pretty spectacular, and there is still opportunity to give a little bit more. We have one or two Hope the Pigeons at the back as you leave if you want to buy a souvenir of this evening. But finally, I think you know who we now have to say thank you to. I think we should all sing Blowing Bubbles again, but I do want to have one last chance for you to conduct your new choir. All right, okay. And can we all just say a big, big round of applause and thank you.